Today we're making a cold cut from a pig's head like my ancestors did it, using this contraption. I've removed the brain and other things that you don't want to eat. I hear that some people eat the brain as well. Now this one's shot through the brain, so there wasn't much left of it. I don't know if I should remove the eye or not. I know that some people eat the eye, at least on sheep. There's a traditional Norwegian dish where you bake the head, and for some it's kind of a rite of passage to eat the eye as well. Now I'm not sure about all that, but I guess I'll leave the eye in there for now and try and remove it after cooking. Maybe that's easier. This is my first time working on a head. I've always thought of it as kind of weird, but it's good meat and fat in there, and it would be a shame to just throw it away. It's easier to work with the rest of the body when the head is removed. The rest of it is just food. But I guess it's something with the eyes and the brain and the teeth that makes this a bit different. This cold cut is called SYLTE and is traditionally made from pig's head. In the industry, they now make it from other parts of the pig, but I'm turning those parts into bacon, so that's not happening. And I think it's cool to try and make it as they did in the old days, and also in the spirit of using the whole animal. Now it's cooked for 3 hours and it's time to find the meat and fat. There is a whole bunch of fat in there and we're gonna use all of it. Traditionally you use the skin as well, but since I still have a lot of hair on it, I'm gonna leave that out. This is what I'm left with, meat and fat, although some of the fat is actually white meat, so there is more meat than it looks, but I still feel like I need more. So I'm gonna use this butt piece to level out the meat and fat ratio. Now it's time for the assembly, and I'm gonna use this bowl and put it in layers. And if I were to use the skin, I would start with it so that when it's finished, I'd have a protective layer of skin. But since I don't have any, I'm gonna start with a piece of meat. And between the layers, I'll drizzle on a mix of spices. I use some salt, pepper, ginger, carnation or clove. I couldn't find a conclusive translation on it. In Norwegian we call it nellik. So if you know, feel free to enlighten us in the comments below. I'm also going to put in some allspice, and that's not Old Spice. I'm not on a horse. And to glue it all together, I'll use some gelatin powder. There is gelatin naturally in the pig, and I've heard about people using the pig's feet for gelatin, but I'm not taking any chances because I really want this piece to stick together. Gelatin, 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 gelatin. So I'm adding the gelatin. Now it's time to put it back on the stove and let it simmer for about an hour. And I'm not quite sure about this next step. I'm supposed to wrap this thing so it keeps the shape in the water, but also when I'm squeezing it with the wooden thing that I showed you in the beginning. I'm going with a couple of knots and some butcher's string, and hopefully that will keep it from falling apart. It's been under pressure overnight, and last night before going to bed I squeezed it a couple of times just to get all the water out, and now I'm pretty excited to see the result. I think it looks good. It holds together. It would be much prettier with the skin on. It would hide all the bumps and cracks. The knots made a big crater. I didn't think of that, but it figures, of course. It's nice. It's a lot of sylte I've had earlier tend to be a little dry. This is not at all. The meat and fat distribution is even. It lacks a little taste. Could definitely use some more spice, maybe double the amount that I used. But I am happy with it for sure, and I maybe even think that my grandma would approve and maybe even be a little proud. Sylte. This is how I usually eat it, with a slice of bread and some mustard. This was the last one for this year. I want to thank you for joining me watching these videos. 2021 was pretty strange for all of us. I sold the water buffaloes and socially it was pretty bleak. But I have some cool plans for the next year, some new animals and some new gear. So I really hope that 2022 will be truly amazing for the both of us. So until next year, toodaloo, Happy New Year.